Okay, gonna do a gun show report, and this one I'm a little late with it. It was back in it was November 18th and 19th, and it's called the Raleigh Gun and Knife Show at the State Fairgrounds here in North Carolina. Now, the State Fairgrounds in Raleigh hosted a lot of gun shows. C&E used to go up there. There was a Blue Ridge Gun and Knife Show, which was a nice show, and it was a fairly large show. But also, this show kind of became famous or infamous for a couple incidents. One was, it was years ago. I don't know how many years ago it was, say 6, 7. Somebody brought a shotgun in a case and they laid it on the table in the lobby, and when the people checking the gun reached in there, they had their finger on the trigger, and when they yanked the shotgun out of the case, the gun went off. Needless to say, they said it was very strange. A whole bunch of ATF vehicles showed up, and they actually ended up shutting the show down for a while that day. But also, during the Obama years, I went to a show in the same building. It's a fairly large building up there that they hold this in. And it was so crowded that the fire marshal, they had to shut the doors and they wouldn't allow no one in for like 2 or 3 hours until people dispersed. So sometimes you get a big show there, okay? Probably, as far as the state's concerned, is probably the biggest show you're going to find. So the reason I haven't been going to gun shows the most part of this year or making any reports is because when I do go to some smaller shows, like say in Winston, I went to Fayetteville a few times. What used to be a very large show, but when you show up and say an hour or two after they've opened or an hour after they open and there's no line, this isn't a good sign, okay? And a lot of people have stopped going since the health crisis because all the criteria and that drove a lot of people away. Plus the fact with the economy and everything, people really aren't buying. But I was surprised when I went these weeks ago. It was in the building. I remember they had it in its same large building, and there was a long line. We had to wait, I think, 15, 20 minutes in line, me and my wife, to get in. And when we left, we went in around, we got to 9, 10. We were in there for an hour or two, okay? And then when we came out, say noon or 1 o'clock, there was still, the line was shorter, but there was still a line of people waiting to get in. So I have not seen that in a gun show in a long time. It was a really good turnout. Now inside, which was really nice, is, I went to some venues where there were no open tables, and I mean it's a big venue. And in the past few years I've gone to the same venue and there's like half the tables there. Okay, but this one, full. It was full just like the old days, all kinds of vendors and that. Actually, the amount of people like selling sausages or barbecue sauce or beef jerky or something and shoe polish, it was actually quite small. You still have the people selling all the cheap swords and knives and weird stuff like that. There was a few of them, but the amount of the vendors selling non-firearms item was fairly small. They were still there, but it wasn't as many. Sometimes you go to a show and half the show is non-gun related stuff, but they were there, but not that terrible. A lot of dealers there. And, being it's the state capital, so it was a pretty good turnout. So it was nice. You went in there. It wasn't super crowded because this place was big, so it wasn't really terribly crowded like some shows. But there were a lot of folks there. A lot of people attended it. And most of the dealers, there's some old dealers that I know that have all these high dollar classic firearms and expensive shotguns. They were there. Up front you had the guys that are somewhat dealers, and they always get them tables right by the door to jump on you if you're coming in with an old antique gun. You know, those fellas were there. There was military collectibles, there was uniforms, you know, because some of these fellas will have some guns, uniforms, helmets, stuff like that. So it was a pretty good selection, and there were a lot of just simple gun shop people that all they got are firearms. Okay, so there's a wide variety of stuff. Again, like as usual, most of the people bring in a lot of handguns. It's all brand name stuff, Glocks, Springfield Armory, a lot of stuff there. There were a few guys that had surplus things, and one fella had some of them P38s that come in. They're the police version, and it's the same price that you find online. No bargains there. He had one or two surplus guns, but what he had is the AR-15 style 12-gauge shotguns with the 20 round or 25 round drum magazine. He had a deal on them for $600. Nothing I was really interested in. I don't think I can carry the damn thing anymore if it's fully loaded. So you see that standard fare of guns. You know, there's some people that have all sporting rifles, old sporting rifles, nylon 66s and bolt action guns and things like that. So it was a pretty varied selection. There was some surplus dealer. The one surplus dealer I knew, the big one, he was there. But even him, he's a friend of mine. You know, it used to be when he came to the shows years ago, you know, he had a smaller table area, but everything there was Milsurp. Or he had some civilian firearms. He had a few of them that would be used or something. But even with the supply drying up, he had a pretty nice selection of surplus guns, bolt action guns, SKSs, all this other stuff. His prices were pretty high, so you didn't really see a lot of this stuff flying off the table. But to make up for it, because he told me at one point that he went for like 6 months and he could not find any used firearms. So he has 50% of what he has there are brand new firearms. Okay, he's branched out to where he has a lot of new guns and a pretty good varied selection of what it is for a small shop that he is. But he had a good selection of guns there. And there were a lot of the older dealers, I remember them, because they got the same stuff in the display cases, old Smith & Wessons, all high-grade pistols, Colts and that. So it was worth the trip out there. Nothing there really caught my eye, or really I'm not looking for anything. This recent downsurge, and I'll make a video on that. There's actually brand new guns. They got what they call deflation. They're lowering the prices on them, and if you shop around online, you can get a pretty decent deal on a modern factory gun. I'm not talking about the Milsurps or things that are no longer popping up, but even I think Atlantic Firearms with the CZ82s, I think they dropped their price. They couldn't sell them. They actually dropped their price on some of the surplus guns they were getting in. Okay, which is kind of unusual, but you see it happening. But anyway, it was good to see the show. It was good to see people turned out. Like I said, it wasn't very crowded. It was actually a decent show. If I was looking for something, I may have found it, but like I said, I just went there to kill time and check it out. And actually, if they have it again, I may go up there again. It is a bit of a drive, almost 2 hours to get up there for me. But it was a nice show, okay? And the one thing I realized, people were checking guns in, because the way they set it up after that incident, if you're going to come with a firearm check in, you have to go through a totally different entrance. You pay for your admission, you go to this different entrance, and they have a whole bunch of people in this zone that check your gun, make sure it's unloaded, and tie it up and let you in. So that's still a practice, and ever since at that venue, ever since they had that accidental discharge, that's the way it's been. Because I did go up there a few years after trying to sell a rifle and had to go through the process that's a little bit different in most places to get in with a gun. So in a way it's good. Of course, I think it's about $10 a head to get in, which I don't see that ever kind of lowering down again. The parking was free, in the complex, so it wasn't one of them deals where you had to pay to park and pay to get in. But it was, a nice day to go out, relax, go to the show. I'm seeing more and more dealers come out, and the gun shows are picking up momentum again. And there were a lot of people that showed up. Now I'm going to go to a smaller one this weekend and do a report on it. One of the C&E is the name of the promoter. This promoter, I don't know. It used to be Blue Ridge Gun and Knife Works. Now it just says Raleigh Show, so I don't know if it's just run by an organization that rents that building or something. But good turnout. And this one here, these smaller shows, like I said, you pull up an hour or two after they're open, or you get there 30 minutes after they're open and there's no line. It's not a good sign. But kind of like the old days, and we hope that it'll just pick up and keep going again. All right, so that's my thoughts on this show. Pretty large one, nice turnout. Really wasn't looking for none, so I couldn't tell you if there are any bargains there, But it looks like the gun shows are starting to get back to the way they were back years ago, which is a good thing. It makes them worthwhile to go to. All right, guys, hit the like button, subscribe, and stay tuned.